This video is for submission of the Unit 7 assignment for Columbia Southern University Class HLS 6302, Professor K. Milligan, Homeland Security. All references will be placed in the description below the video. Today I will be discussing a domestic violence incident that happened in the United States after the date of 2010. The incident that I will be describing is the Naval Air Station Pensacola 2019 shooting. On 6 December 2019, a second lieutenant from the Saudi Arabian Air Force, Second Lieutenant Muhammad Sahid al-Sharami, was training at Naval Air Station Pensacola along with 18 other Saudi Arabian pilots through an exchange program. At 0640 hours, the second lieutenant entered the quarterdeck of Building 633 and immediately shot two Navy watchstanders. He was armed with a Glock 45 and extended magazines that he procured by legal methods off base. At 0643 through 0652 hours, he progressed through Building 633, killing another sailor and wounding 5 other military and civilian personnel. At 0656, Escambia County Sheriff's Office deputies joined Naval Security Forces to help secure the scene and to stop the shooter. The second lieutenant proceeded through the building. He shot 2 of the Escambia County Sheriff's deputies. They were wounded. The onslaught was stopped at 0658 hours when an Escambia County deputy fired a rifle round and killed the second lieutenant. This is all from the information taken from the command investigation dated 07 July 2020. It is also interesting to note that the Department of Justice's report as well, dated 1/13/2020, noted that during the exchange of gunfire, the second lieutenant did take the time to drop his phone to the ground and fire 1 round into it, stopping the combat just long enough so he can dispose of evidence, to say. And to denote more of a domestic aspect of this, through Congress.gov R47885, 29 December 2023, the federal definition of a domestic terrorist event. In general statutory terms, and I quote, a domestic terrorist engages in terrorist activity that occurs in the United States. So even though the second lieutenant was a Saudi national, he was training on base in the United States and was given those rights and privileges to do so, so therefore it still goes under the definition of the domestic terrorism. With the response after this incident was that again, from the command investigation, there were numerous recommendations made of how we can improve the security of the program, of how we can better vet individuals that are coming into the program. This is a 256-page document that is highly redacted, but there is some pertinent information in there, such as better vetting of the individuals before they even enter the United States and enter the program. From the CSU online library, we found information that the NBC News was the very first to report the name and nationality of the shooter on base. They reported that it was a second lieutenant from the Saudi Arabian Air Force and that he was the primary shooter in this incident. And there was also a statement from President Donald Trump stating that the king said that the Saudi Arabian people are greatly angered by the barbaric actions of the shooter and that this person in no way, shape, or form represents the people of Saudi Arabia. Kind of a denotation to a statement we heard also after September 11th. This is in the transcript that will be also referenced from NBC. The Homeland Security Digital Library gave a summary of the incident from the timeline of point A to point B. They also said that there was no prior knowledge that the second lieutenant had been radicalized, but going through documents found from other individuals, they gauge approximately 2015 is when his radicalization took place. On FBI.gov of 1/13/2020, Attorney General William Barr stated that through the investigation and through looking at public information and social media posts, the second lieutenant had visited the 9/11 memorial in New York a year prior to this incident happening. And on social media, he made the quote and a statement, "The countdown has started," an indication that there was prior planning, but they did not know any of this information because of the vetting process that took place. For answers 2 and 3 of the bullet points that were questioned in this, the command investigation covered an enormous amount. In response, the Department of Defense and the Department of the Navy investigated members in the training program and found that they all possessed illegal materials and jihadist-style sentiment, and they were all sent back to Saudi Arabia. Under the command investigation, they also made and implemented immediately expanded background checks, better vetting of the individuals who are doing anything with any programs in the United States military. The effectiveness of the results of the program and the cooperation between the United States and the King of Saudi Arabia has increased relations and has also been fundamental in training more pilots in this program, and it has actually expanded. The learning from this incident was based on many different options and recommendations in the command incident. Again, filtering through the redactions. Monitoring the individuals. As they said with the second lieutenant, he left base numerous times. They didn't know where he went. Most of his travel was unknown, especially how he was able to obtain the firearm. So there's going to be, they implemented more stringent programs of monitoring the individuals that are in the program. They make straightforward recommendations of how they're able to go around, and especially dealing with the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, how he was able as a foreign national to buy a firearm within the United States and extended magazines. They also were putting more information in there as prosecution to mobile phone providers, and in this case, Apple, who refused to assist law enforcement in the investigation, even though it was a case of terrorism. After the phone was shot, they could get back into the phone, but they could not access the data. Apple refused to help, stating that the privacy of their customers is paramount.
So I hate to butt into your presentation, but I think this might bring up a very interesting question by some of your classmates. If during the investigation they were to have a warrant for that said Apple information, why did they not have to give it over?
They had a court-ordered warrant, and Apple still refused to assist. So they defied the warrant, saying that the warrant intruded upon the Fourth Amendment of privacy and unreasonable search and seizure. The warrant in itself, if you truly go back to the Patriot Act, was unnecessary because this was an act of terrorism. They refused to help unlock the phone, which Apple said they don't have access to people's codes to get into their phone. But the information from the phone is backed up on the cloud, which they have full access to.
Correct.
And they were not providing this to the Department of Justice. So, yes.
So why were their CEOs not put in jail until the information was released?
It's a very good question. If it wasn't for the technical division at the FBI, who was actually able to run the entire sequencing of thousands of possibilities and unlock these phones, they would have never known that there had been communication and jihadist information sent.
And then the second question is, how was he able to get a gun to start with? Because doesn't it state in the guidelines that you have to be a United States citizen?
The exemption that was used on the 4473 because he was yes, he was a foreign national, but while in the training program, they are shown to have residency in the state of Florida. Also, they are granted identification showing them as a affiliate of the United States military. And on the 4473, if they have a valid military ID and proof of residency, such as any military member who may be deployed, if they have proof of residency through orders, they can actually legally buy a gun. It's a loophole that they exploited.
So I'm hoping they fixed that loophole since then.
Oh yes. Through many of the policies, procedures, guidelines, and everything that they've went through, those were some of the things that were revamped. Through the command investigation, and incorporated the Department of Navy, through the Secretary of the Navy, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, and alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And they were able to cure a lot of these little aspects that were exploitable loopholes. So in the sense of this presentation of an act of domestic terrorism, this completely, even though it was committed by a foreign national, even because it was committed on the soil of the United States, it falls under the definition of a domestic terrorism event. We learned from this. They are slowly integrating key factors where foreign nationals do not train with live fire on the Navy bases. They have laser. They are not allowed to possess firearms. And there's even been which many people ask, why in the United States are our armed service members not armed on base, where those watchstanders could have stopped this before it even went through.
They're not?
No. Only your security forces are.
Hmm.
So they've went into address protocols and procedures of who can and cannot be armed on base, because naval security forces had to travel all the way across the base to get to building 633. That timeline allowed him to travel through the building and shoot more people.
Why do they not have security personnel in more than one location on a base?
Because they're roving. It's normally three on the base that size. You'll have 3 positional roving units that are in vehicles going around the entire base, and then you have fixed positions at all the gates. So yes, it's something that has been definitely addressed. And the revisions through the policies of the Department of Navy, there are too many to list for this. That's the Department of Navy, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, Department of International Affairs. They were even involved, because even Saudi Arabia pledged help to resolve any issues that could come from this again. But since this time, we have never had any issues of any of the individuals being found with illegal materials. They've graduated numerous pilots that have helped, and it's very helped the relationship between the two countries. So, in summation, the second lieutenant, unknowns to the people even he was serving with from Saudi Arabia, had been radicalized against the United States, proved to carry out his attack at a paramount position, because Naval Station Pensacola, ever since World War II, has been training numerous naval pilots that have been operating in the wars. So some think that could have had a indication of why he decided to carry out the attack at the Naval Air Station. All references will be made in the notations below the video, and thank you.